So Nvidia has become like the hype right now in the stock market world. Everyone just wants to get into investing in stocks now because they've seen the growth that it's had, and all the people who've invested in it have gained so much money. But is Nvidia still worth investing in, and are there any other stocks that are showing a similar pattern to Nvidia? So there are three main semiconductor stocks that I'm invested in, and I have been from a long time now. Maybe not like a really long time, but I mean like a year, a couple of years, something like that. And there's a couple of semiconductor stocks that I'm not invested in. So the two stocks that I'm not invested in are AMD and Intel. So personally, when I'm looking for a stock to invest in, I'm usually taking like a more qualitative approach. I don't look too much into the technicals and the numbers. I look more at, do I see this company being something bigger than it is today? While Intel is still making powerful processors, despite them having some issues with their new i9 cores, do I see it as a company that will be a lot bigger than it is right now? I don't know. I feel like Intel has already had its peak, like back in the day when i7 was like the top core you could have on anything, and Apple used it in their MacBooks. But I just don't see Intel as becoming something bigger than it ever was before. As for AMD and Nvidia were both stocks that I was hearing about a lot, and a lot of people around me were investing in them and trading them, but I never really looked into them enough, or I would always see them as they've gone too high now for me to buy them or anything like that, which is why I never invested in AMD or Nvidia, except that I did invest in Nvidia like last year, and that's because Nvidia was just going like out of control, and I just felt like I can't like miss this opportunity. AMD, I just feel like hasn't gained the same traction that Nvidia did, although I do see AMD as a bit better than Intel. Like, it does still have some kind of future. There's still some market share that it can take, as this whole space is growing very rapidly right now. But for now, I'm not buying AMD, and if anything changes, I'll hopefully make a video about that. Now, the three stocks that I have invested in the semiconductor space, two of which have been extremely rewarding. Despite getting into Nvidia really late, like as I said, last year, which is 2023, July, August, I don't know, it was something like that. And shout out to my friend who told me to buy it, and that was the final tipping point at which I actually decided to buy shares of Nvidia. And despite that being fairly late compared to the people who bought Nvidia like 2 years ago or something like that, it was still extremely rewarding because I am more than 120% up now, I think. And Nvidia has just been going absolutely nuts. Like, people are putting it above Microsoft and Google and expecting $4 trillion market caps in the future. And it is kind of moving from a more speculative stock to a very low risk stock, but it is still a little bit. The only issue is that it has kind of gone up really quickly, which isn't really an issue, but it's just a little bit scary. It just feels a little bit risky because of how quickly it's gone up, and you just feel like it's gonna go down any minute. But then just the psychological look of the stock price after the split and everything just kind of makes it look a bit more comfortable, not like it's going into the stratosphere with like $3,000 per share or something. And the company is doing well and everything, but it does kind of feel a bit crazy to have such a high market cap in like the multiple trillions in a space where chip shortage is still a thing, and there's tensions in the world that could cause wars or issues which will affect the supply chain of semiconductors and materials used. And this might be surprising to some of you, but Nvidia is actually quite a small percentage of my portfolio because I was kind of playing it a bit safe. I know if I had put a lot more, I could have probably made a lot more money in it as well, but I'm kind of happy with how I'm playing it right now, and it's at a point where I'm comfortable just leaving it and not adding to it or taking profit from it. I'll just kind of leave it for now and just see what happens. And then the next one, which is actually my favorite semiconductor stock, is Broadcom, which is kind of related to Nvidia because they're using Nvidia's GPUs in their processors, in their AI factories. And on top of that, Broadcom offers a generous dividend of around 3 to 4%, and it's been less volatile than Nvidia overall. Like in the last couple of years, 5 years, whatever, it's had a very stable sort of movement. It's been like the ignored stable low risk stock. Like its movement is very similar to like Google, Microsoft, Apple, like these ones. It's been doing very well and giving a really nice dividend. And right now, with all the Nvidia hype going on, Broadcom has gone like absolutely insane. I'm actually higher on Broadcom than Nvidia. And the last stock that I have a very tiny position in is SMCI, Supermicro Computer Industry, whatever it's called. This one I think I mentioned in my last video. I don't really know much about it. I just saw how quickly it shot up from like $200 to like $1,200, and I just thought I do need to get a little piece of this, and it has like gone down a little bit, but I have such a tiny position in it that I don't mind like just risking it and just seeing what happens. But my favorite top semiconductor stock is Broadcom, followed by Nvidia, and these are two stocks that I would not think are a bad idea to invest in. This is not financial advice, it's for entertainment purposes only, it's only my opinion. And honestly, I would even consider like putting like a tiny bit of money into AMD just to see what happens with it. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you like and subscribe and comment your thoughts below and tell me what you think, what have you invested in, and I'll see you next week.